Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today in the studio is Kate Goold. Kate is a working mum of two who recently celebrated 1 full year of sobriety. At the beginning of last year, after years of chronic pain and multiple surgeries, which led to severe depression and anxiety, Kate made a year-long commitment to the Sober Curious movement. From what started as a journey aimed solely to help heal herself physically, to her surprise, unpacked more mentally than she could have imagined, and ended with the rebirth of a completely new person and life. Now, I had the absolute joy of witnessing this transformation in real time, and so I'm beyond excited to have this conversation with Kate today. So without any further delay, Kate, welcome to Behind the Smile. How are you?
I am good, thank you. I'm equal parts proud and nervous to be here.
Yes, we were chatting offline before. It is so nervous. I think the minute the lights go on and there's a microphone in front of your face, our bodies kind of just go, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, and most people who know me know my story. It's not so much a secret, but I don't know that I've ever put myself in a position to talk about it so publicly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes an immense amount of courage, and I'm just so grateful that you have made the decision to share this story, because I know that your story in particular is going to resonate so deeply with a lot of people, and that's really what I want to share here today. So firstly, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Now, to allow our audience to get to know you a little bit better, we always start with some nice, easy questions. So Kate, tell me, where do you live? What does an average day look like? And what do you do for fun?
I live in Bayside. I'm a Bayside girl through and through. I moved out for about 10 years, but came back to the bubble like most people do.
Same.
An average day for me is I don't want to say joined the 5 a.m. club, but I get up sometime between 5 and 6 so I can do exercise before the rest of my house gets up. And then it is kids, a bit of school, a bit of work for me before I get the kids to school, then full day of work for me with moving my body at lunchtime. I try and make that a priority. My kids are now doing basketball 4 nights a week. So
4 nights a week?
Yes, between them, both being on a team and both doing training. I'm really lucky that I've got an amazing support network of people that help me juggle pickups and getting to training and getting to games. So I work full time, so I'm at the desk for the most part of the day, and then it is I still call it the witching hour, even though my kids are 8 and 7. So between 5 and 7 is purely kid focused. And then once they're off to bed, Nick and I will make some dinner, sit down about 8 o'clock, and then at 9 o'clock my alarm goes off to tell me to go to bed.
I love that you have an alarm to remind you to go to bed. Is that something that's new in this sobriety journey and this change in habits?
Yes, I have alarms for everything. I have an alarm to meditate. I have, alarm just to take some of the mental load off of what you carry throughout the day. There's a lot of balls in the air at any given time, and I find that the alarms just, it helps.
That's such a great idea. It's one less thing that you have to think about. I schedule everything in my calendar. So if you look at my calendar, it looks like I'm extremely busy, which on a day-to-day basis I kind of am. But it also includes things like eat lunch, spiritual practice, move your body, walk frank. Like I have all of these little things in my calendar every hour of the day just so that I can make sure that I'm showing up and hitting my marks as needed.
I agree. I'm the same these days. And it's because it's really easy to, when you're working, just be ploughing through and forget, I haven't gotten up in 30 minutes or 2 hours or whatever. I have a reminder that goes off every half an hour to drink water.
That's so good. I love that.
It's just a little drop ping that it sounds like a water drop. And I go, water. So it's some app that I came across. But it's helped me hit all those little goals that you want to do across the journey, but without creating more mental load to carry to remember it all by. And what do I do for fun? That has changed a lot in the last 18 months. I have joined a book club, which is not something that I ever would have done before, and I love it. I'm very new. We're all very new to it. We had to Google at the book club what to do at a book club.
I love this. I love this even more because I feel like book clubs are so often associated with wine. So tell me, do people drink in your book club?
Yeah.
And you go and you are just not even...
No, I'll have an alcohol-free beer, or I've found a couple of alcohol-free Chardonnays, and I've never really worried too much about. Some people don't like to have alcohol-free drinks, but I don't mind them, and I can only usually have one because they're so sweet. It took me about probably 6 months to want to do that stuff, and it's still something I work through. So small group stuff, easy, great, love it. Big group stuff, not so much, but I'm working through it.
Yeah, you certainly are. You've come a long way in that area. Okay, so you do book club, which I love, and that's like so hello mid to late 30s. Love it.
Yeah. It's a very new thing, but it's with an amazing group of mums that I've really connected with from school, and, you know, we've only had one book club meeting. And I'm like,
what's the book?
We just did The Women,
Nice.
which is about a Frankie,
Yeah.
which was keeping me up at night because my daughter's name is Frankie, and I was worried about this character Frankie. It was so dumb. It was a really good book, and I can't remember what the most recent one I've just finished, about a lady who predicts people's deaths on a flight from Tasmania. It was really interesting.
Oh, somebody told me about this one. Actually, a client of mine recently told me about this one.
It was one of those ones that was really good, but only the last 20%.
Yeah.
So you got to schlep your way through.
Yeah,
to
you got
get
to
the
push
good
through.
bits.
Amazing. So when you're not in book club, what else are you doing for fun?
I've found a new love for fitness, and it started with Pilates, and it's now evolved to weightlifting, like moving, lifting, getting myself fit and strong. And so this has all been part of my healing journey and healing my body. But I go to the gym once or twice a day, but it's more for my mental health.
Wow. And how did you get into lifting? Because I know for a lot of women in particular, that can be quite an intimidating space.
Yeah, it's not bodybuilder lifting type thing, but I've found a women's only gym that is purely strength training near where I live in Sandringham. And they do gym classes like a normal, but it's all based around training for a woman's body and, you know, not lifting heavy weights, but building where you need to protect your body for as you're, you know, getting older.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they say we should be strength training at least 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
And I know that for me, when I incorporated, I built strength training into my fitness practice about 18 months ago as well. And it's done wonders, strength-wise, mentally, physically, all of it. I've seen so many results, more than any other style of training I've ever done before.
Yeah, so I've always loathed cardio. It's not my jam. And so this is, you know, 45-minute class, in and out. You're not that sore because you're not lifting ridiculously heavy weights. I did CrossFit and F45 and BFT for a long time, and it's just not good for my body.
Yeah, well, it creates that increase of cortisol, that spike where your body goes into fight or flight, and then you're dumping all of this adrenaline into the body. And it's not great for women.
My form I've never been great because I've never done anything professionally by any means or anything like that. So my form is not great. And so doing that kind of exercise was doing more harm to my body than good. Yeah. This is slow. This is at your own pace. This is at your own weight. But it's, something that I really enjoy doing. And so I've got my 2 alarms for my 6 a.m. class and my 12 p.m. class. Wow. So I don't do strength training twice a day, but I do something at those 2 points.
So what would you do at midday?
I'll either have a walk or do a Pilates class.
That's amazing, honey. Yeah. And you've lost, over 60 kilos?
Yeah, just creeping up to 60 kilos.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, you took my breath away when you arrived here today. I couldn't believe, because I haven't seen you in person for probably maybe 6 months or so, and you just look amazing.
Thank you. And it's not all in the last, since I stopped drinking alcohol, because a lot of people, I think I said to you before, oh my gosh, how much were you drinking? I'm like, oh no, it's just this dominant, like this amazing domino effect of things that happen when you do stop drinking.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden you have so much time.
So much time.
And you're making the right choices and you're not craving the sugary foods. Just a lot of it. I was the same. I naturally lost 15 kilos when I stopped drinking over the course of 12 months.
Yeah. And I've noticed, I've stopped losing weight, but my body has changed in the last, I started doing this strength-based training maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and there's been real changes in my body since then. Oh, hi.
There he goes. Frankie was waiting for his moment to jump on Kate, and now he's there. If he gets annoying, just move him off.
So book club, strength training, and hanging out with my kids, which is something I enjoy so much more these days.
Right.
I actually really like them.
Yeah.
So, sitting on the floor and doing a puzzle or colouring with them brings me so much joy these days, which is something that I didn't have the patience to do before.
Yeah.
So,
and what do you think has given you that patience? Has it been developing a meditation practice, finding more stillness?
I think, when you're so busy as a mum and trying to do 7 million things, anytime I had the 5 o'clock wine, I switched off from parenting. I was like, oh, okay, I'm done with this now. But you're not. And so I don't have these massive up and downs anymore in terms of how I'm feeling and what's going on. Everything else is just elevated. And so to be able to just enjoy something that I used to find a chore is so nice. And apart from anything else, like that is one huge reason to not drink whilst I've got kids the age that they are, because they're not going to be this age forever.
No, time flies, right?
Yeah. And I appreciate what I'm doing with them so much more. I don't actually know what it is. It's I don't have anything that's kind of pushing me to go faster. No, do more, get things done. Like I can slow down. And yes, meditation, although my practice has probably dropped off a little bit. I pressed snooze on that alarm a lot. I did about 4 snoozes before I cancelled it yesterday. But also being okay with that.
Yeah.
It's not going to work every day for everything. I don't go to the gym twice a day every day, but I've had to teach myself not to punish myself for that. And that's been a real game changer and learning curve that I'm still going through, because I used to get in my own head. But you got to go. You should go. That should word. Put it in the bin.
Toxic, right?
Toxic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So forgiveness with myself.
Yeah. And at what point did you get to that place of forgiveness? Because I think there's also a fine line between discipline, which is something that you've really had to cultivate to get the incredible results that you've achieved, not only physically, but with your sobriety, with your mental health and everything that we're going to discuss in more detail today. But, you know, where is that line of discipline, knowing, oh no, I really do need to go and show up for myself, versus it's okay to have a little rest or a little break here?
I can get a bit obsessive about it. And so one thing that I've done a lot of work with my psychologist on is moderation and learning to moderate, and doing CBT when, I really don't want to go to the gym now. That's okay. You've made the decision. You need to push through why that's okay. CBT your way through it.
Yes.
And move on.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We've got Frank on the move.
Okay. Oh.
You want to just sit there?
Beautiful.
There we go. Now we're not sitting on top of our guest. There we go.
I'm used to no personal space.
It's fine. Fantastic. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. All right, great. So you've got this process now where you can apply the tools that you've learned in therapy to allow you to have that balance in your life.
Yep.
Phenomenal.
And forgiveness. I've always been incredibly hard on myself, my own worst critic, and I think a lot of women are, but really working my way through that and just having a bit of grace with yourself. If you want, I do have a rule that when my alarm goes off in the morning, I sit up straight away.
Yes.
Because otherwise I can hit that snooze button and I am done. And it is only a couple of minutes that it's really hard sometimes to actually get up. But for the most part, I've kind of tried to work out little tips and tricks. And if it doesn't work that day. And that's okay.
Yeah.
The 2-day rule comes in. But
ooh, tell me about the 2-day rule.
You never miss or skip 2 days in a row. So if you want to skip one, that's fine. But don't do it twice, because that's when you create the patterns. Because I used to notice, if I don't go 1 day or two, I'll blink and it's been 3 weeks.
And then it's so much harder to get back into it.
So much harder. But I am well aware that when I fall hard. So I am just working my way through that, because that will happen if I, stop doing my routines and stuff at one point, or I might get a cold and I'm not able to go to the gym or do the things that help heal my mind and body. And so it's just working your way through that.
Yeah.
With therapy and forgiveness.
Absolutely. Okay, Kate, now I've asked you to bring in a photo today. Now, this photo is from a time in your life when you were hiding behind a smile. So you were presenting one version of yourself to the outside world, but internally you were struggling. Can you please describe for the listeners, what is the photo that I'm going to bring up on the screen now? What are we looking at here? And what was actually really going on for you at that time?
So the photos with one of my daughters, Frankie, and some years ago, over the space of 4 years, I had 3 hip replacements. I spent collectively over 2 years on crutches and months in and out of hospitals and physical rehab. And so during that time, I really learnt in a sort of protection mode to try and make sure everyone think that everything was okay, that I would just soldier on and I got this, and I would smile and laugh, and particularly in front of my kids, because you don't ever want them to think that something's wrong or that something's wrong with mummy, or, you know, there was enough that they understood that was wrong with mummy in you know, not being able to look after them because I was so physically unwell. And I just remember crying into a pillow when she would leave, or when, you know, Millie, my other daughter, would leave, or when we'd hang up the phone, because I was spent so many months in hospital that it was a lot of FaceTime, and it was so hard, and so much pressure. And the only 2 people that saw through me were my mum and my incredible husband. But I think to a point I was even able to fool them. And I was just wiltering away inside, but could pop this smile on.
Why 3 hip replacements? Help me understand how somebody so young gets to that point.
So when I got pregnant, I thought pregnancy was awful. I was in so much pain and couldn't walk, and I just thought, women are warriors, which we are, but you don't know what you don't know. And it turns out that I had hip dysplasia that went undiagnosed from when I was a baby.
Oh, wow.
So, but they didn't work that out until well after both my pregnancies. So at one point I had a 6-month-old in a pram, I was pregnant, I had a moon boot on, and I was on crutches. And I was walking down the street and I saw my reflection and I just laughed. I was like, is this a joke? And so from that, it got so severe, one of my legs rotated 90 degrees permanently. And given that I was really young and I had 2 young kids, I didn't have the health insurance you needed to get joint replacements. So there was waits for public, and then I had to wait 12 months for private to get the second one done. And then the first one, he did it really loosely because I was so young and would need it for so long, it kept dislocating. So they had to go in and redo it. So it was a really traumatic and painful experience. Like it's just the pain that I experienced over a 6-year period it broke me in the end. Not just physically, it got to a point where it just broke me mentally, and I'd never had any issues with depression or anxiety before. So sort of trying to take that on and understand that in your early 30s as something that's so new was just this next level of like, I don't have this in me after what I've been through physically to now start dealing with this stuff.
And all the while being a new mum.
Yes.
Which in and of itself is hugely taxing mentally.
Yeah. So, you know, I had a 1 and a 2-year-old at the time, and yeah, we ended up actually having to move in with my parents it was meant to be 6 months, but I physically couldn't look after the children as I needed to. So I've had the most supportive parents. They've been incredible. I'm so lucky, because not everyone would have that option. I think Frankie she was 12 weeks old when we moved in.
Wow.
With mum and dad, and I'm on crutches, and Millie, our oldest, she was 1. And so, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And, you know, the guilt and shame, even though the hips weren't something that I could control, but when my mind started, I don't want to say going, but the shame that came with that I couldn't hold my shit together was crippling, was so crippling. And like, I'm so incredibly lucky to have my mum, my dad and my husband who just rallied together to get shit done for me and for us.
So for somebody who's listening along, you know, I'd love you to explain what that depression looked like. You know, I've heard it described before as a dark cloud. For me, when I've had bouts of depression, it's been almost like this heaviness where even just getting out of bed feels like the world's biggest task. Like everything is overwhelming and exhausting. And
everything. And you have to put a mask. Well, I felt I had to put a mask on when my kids are around, and that in itself it just depletes you of every little last ounce of energy that you have. So physically, a lot of the time I couldn't get out of a bed anyway. So I could hide behind that. I hid my mental state behind my physical state. I didn't have to get out of bed because I had to rest after all these operations. But it was exhausting. I've just never been so tired in all my life. And the chatter in your mind about just punishing yourself constantly. You're on this wheel going round and round. You need to get better. You need to get better. You can't get better, but you should get better. But so it was awful.
So you felt like it was your fault that you were so unwell.
I felt like it was my fault that I couldn't hold it together.
Right.
And I should have been able to hold it together for my children, for my family, and it was my fault that I dropped my bundle. Although I worked all through this, I still did the mum thing because obviously you have to, and I wanted to.
That one, yeah.
But I look back now, really sad for her, but also sad for that I did miss out on a little bit with the kids at that age because I wasn't present. I tried to be to the best of my ability, but it was debilitating.
And at what point were you, well, firstly, let me ask, do you think that you were self-medicating at all during this time? And I want to ask that question twofold because I'm imagining you were on some pretty heavy pain meds.
Yep.
And then I also know that you were still drinking at that time. Can you describe what that looked like? And were you even conscious that you were masking the pain with medication?
Internally I was, yes, I knew, but I didn't admit it. Love a painkiller. And I had an open slather.
Yeah, of course you did.
Because I just could. And it didn't, even if I got to my max with one doctor, I was able to go to another one and get a few more painkillers here and there.
Wow.
Because all you need to say is...
It's doctor shopping, right?
Yeah. Not to the point where I could turn it off.
Yeah.
And like I've said to you before, I don't identify as an alcoholic. I've chosen to not drink. But I definitely, during those times, was self-medicating. Not only the hip pain stuff, like my husband and I having to move in with the in-laws, like that's not ideal for anybody.
Totally, and the shame that comes with that.
And the shame that comes with that, and then, getting the two kids to bed, and you're like, oh, sweet, let's just share a bottle of wine or whatever. But I was definitely self-medicating between painkillers, anxiety medication, antidepressants, anti-inflammatories. It was just the works. It was a great concoction.
Yeah. And at what point did you think, I can't keep doing this, something's got to give?
I had bouts on and off because I feel like the pain medication is what really altered my mind, and it did some damage and created the dark cloud and the depression, which from what I understand endone can do, and it was prolonged use of like some heavy painkillers.
Which are highly addictive.
Highly addictive. I was always able to turn it off. It didn't ever become a problem, but I was definitely self-medicating.
Yeah, and I guess numbing, which is to
totally
your point
numbing.
Where you're not able to show up and be present to life and show up to the capacity that you know you have within you because you've got this thing that's just kind of blunting the edges.
And I'd notice over time, like, Kate, you're not in pain. You're numbing your mind now. So I sort of jumped between having a healthy few weeks and then going backwards a little bit, but it also was such a prolonged period of time that sometimes I just didn't have a choice but to take pain medication because you have to function. But yeah, I think there was definitely self-medicating that went along with all of that through the whole way. But it's such an interesting culture that we have that it's kind of okay.
Oh, it's so normalised.
Yeah.
It's so normalised.
Yeah.
To be drinking alcohol, taking prescription medication. I remember sitting at a dinner last year and I was with a group of people who I hadn't seen in a number of years. I don't want to give too much away, but we were away somewhere celebrating something. And so I hadn't seen a lot of these people in a number of years. And over the dinner table, they were exchanging Valiums, Ritalin, so uppers, downers, like pulling out all these pills from their pockets, being like, oh, what do you want? What do you need? Da-da-da. And I was like, I felt like I was watching a movie. I was like, is this happening? I'm so far removed from it.
Yep.
And that certainly was, I was never that was not normalized. In my days when I was still drinking and partying and using, I knew that what I was doing was not good.
Yep.
But this was almost just like, hey, do you need an Advil? Kind of. It was just so.
It's legal, so it's normal.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know, it freaks me out. I'm like, oh God, like your heart might stop. Like, but that's the same with alcohol. Like that's the same with any drug that we put in our body.
Yeah.
And yet we feel like we're invincible. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Kate, tell me about your relationship with alcohol when you were in your teenage years. And we actually went to school together, which many people listening probably wouldn't know, but we were in different year levels at school, but I think we went on a school camp together once.
Did we?
Yeah, I think it might have been I'm talking grade 3, grade 4, really young or something. I've got a memory. It's kind of blurry, as many memories are. Anyway, what was your environment like growing up with alcohol?
It's just normal, I think. But I look back now. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's nothing that's normal, and it's probably not normal. I look back now and go, wow, you were a real binge drinker. From 15, 16, which was normal back then. I think kids are a bit more health conscious now. Thank God. It terrifies me to have 2 young girls, what they might go through when they're teens. But I look back now and go, you always had to be the drunkest, and you always had to bring the most alcohol, drink the most alcohol, and be the drunkest. And I just go, oh my God.
What do you think that was about?
Confidence juice. And it's taken me so long to work that out. And particularly the last 18 months, working out that I'm not actually a crazy loud extrovert. It was always the booze. I'd be standing on a table flinging my undies around my head kind of thing. But it was always the alcohol that just fueled this inner person. It was like an alter ego. And I don't know, people who know me like you would know I'm a fairly open book. I am the queen of too much information. And so alcohol just elevated all of that to a point of embarrassing. So I like the quiet time now, which is new, and it's a new thing to learn. But I don't know if it's the same these days, but it was always weekend, Saturday night was your binge drinking night with your friends.
Do you ever look back at that version of yourself and think maybe she was trying to escape something, like maybe she was running away from herself, or there were parts of yourself that you didn't fully love and embrace at that time, and therefore alcohol gave you that escape?
I don't know whether it was an escape or that it gave me the confidence to be someone else temporarily, to fit in. I've always felt secretly I get quite socially anxious, which you probably wouldn't know from the surface, but alcohol solved that for me.
And did you ever have a time where in those younger years, even in your early 20s, where were you having times where you would drink so much and make an ass of yourself and wake up the next day and swear that you were never going to drink again? Or was it just that's just what we do?
No, it was funny.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
So in my 20s, it was always just funny and let's back it up, Sunday sesh.
Yeah.
It wasn't until maybe my 30s, late 20s, that I was like, oh, you need to pull your head in a bit here. You're kind of growing up and keep hurting yourself. Just about every injury, apart from my hips that I've had, alcohol's been involved or was present when it happened, and it's something that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been drinking too much.
100%. I broke my foot when I was...
Same.
Yeah, did you? 14. I went flying down a flight of stairs.
Oh, mine was probably 20 on those heelys, the kid's shoe with the wheel in the heel.
Oh!
Don't do that after 2 bottles of red.
Definitely not advised. All right, so I'm piecing the pieces of the puzzle together here. You kind of had this relationship with alcohol where you were very much a binge drinker, the party girl, perhaps requiring that confidence juice, which I loved you describing it as. It absolutely is that for so many people. Then you went through quite traumatic surgeries, which then impacted you on a deep level with your mental health as well.
Yep.
And you got to this point where you realized something's got to give. I'm misusing, or I'm taking too many pain meds at points. I'm drinking more than I would like to, and I'm not showing up to my life the way I know that I can.
Yep.
Talk to me about the turning point.
There wasn't so much one thing. I still don't look back and go, I was a problem drinker. I got halfway through, it was 6 months before I decided to do it that I decided to do it, and I mentally prepared for 6 months. And I didn't tell anybody, which is I've noticed something that I do when I'm nervous about something or feeling a bit vulnerable. I didn't tell anybody I was coming here. I just get it done. So I started, and it was actually a New Year's Eve thing, which I know is a bit taboo.
Yes, can be, but
it can be.
It can also be a fantastic line in the sand.
I remember sitting on the couch at 11:59 with my 196, and as soon as those fireworks went off, I was like, I'm done.
Wow.
I'm doing this for 12 months. But it really was a 6-month mental milestone to prepare myself for it. Yeah. It was the same way that I quit smoking. I picked a date 6 months in the future, and albeit that was about 15 years ago now, and just did it. But I did it because of the pain in my body. It had been a long time since my surgeries, but the last hip replacement, they added 0.5 centimetre to one of my legs, and it's really mucked up my lower back. And so my sleep is impacted because I'm in so much pain, and alcohol really, really mucks up my sleep. It can be one wine, and I am running through a conversation I had in my head with someone I met 6 years ago that I've never seen again since, and why they don't like me.
Wow. So the mental chatter really
revs up incredibly. But it was more to heal the inflammation in my body. I did some tests and worked out that my body is filled with inflammation, which is not, I wasn't surprised at. And I just thought to myself, like, I like the hamster wheel expression, I'm on the what can I do that's going to help my body heal? I'll quit drinking.
What were some of the things that you were doing in what I'll describe as your preparation phase, that 6 months in the lead up? Were you like reading Quit Lit, listening to podcasts?
I didn't start any of that until I'd just went cold turkey and did it.
Yeah, so you just needed the run up.
Yeah, and I wasn't even in that last 6 months, I wasn't drinking anywhere near as much as I had been in the years prior when I was self-medicating through after surgeries and being in pain and so on. But the Quit Lit started in the January, and the first 3 months was torture. More so from an irritability and social and sugar craving point of view. So yeah, I my husband and we'd have 3 nights off the booze a week, maybe 2. So Wednesday, Thursday, maybe 1 or 2 wines. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe 2 or 3. We weren't crazy excessive. You've got young kids, we're doing all of the things. But I noticed towards the end, 1 wine would make me feel shit. And it'd make my memory a bit sketchy of like I'd wake up the next day and I'm like, hang on, what did I feed the kids for dinner? I couldn't kind of recall. Wasn't drunk.
Yeah.
Hadn't drunk that much at all. It's just, it just got to a point where I was like, what is something that I can do? And this seemed so simple. It seemed like a simple solution. I'll just cut that out. It's makes your body inflamed. But yeah, I was really surprised at the sugar cravings.
Oh yeah, they come in hard.
My God.
Yeah. And it's something that, I still find myself having these days. And the only thing that works for me with sugar cravings is, funnily enough, complete abstinence. If I try to take time away, then I stop craving it. But, life is short and I eat sugar.
Yeah. I found like Diet Coke.
Oh, crispy cold Diet Coke.
4 o'clock alarm.
Oh!
No, I don't even need the alarm for that. My body knows.
Yeah.
It knows. I'm actually trying to move away from Diet Coke to Coke Zero because I don't want the caffeine at that time of day.
Good idea. I was thinking that, yeah.
And it's shit or shit, but it's, You know what? I've given up a lot. I'm not giving up caffeine and Diet Coke.
I know. I'm on the journey with you, honey. I'm on the journey.
Yeah.
So you set this goal on the 1st of January 2024.
Yep.
You were going to take a year off alcohol. And then you reached out to me.
I did.
Tell me more about that. What inspired you to reach out?
Given that I had decided to do this myself, as someone who, as I said, doesn't, I don't feel like I'm an alcoholic. That's not how I identify. But as someone who just wanted to make a better change in their life, I got really lonely, and you start to feel a little bit lost because you're creating this whole new life that is so different to what you've ever known, and it's just one little thing, but it's one little thing that we do everywhere. And
everywhere.
Everywhere. And like my husband and I, we've been together 15-ish years. He's incredible. He's my biggest supporter. But it's also been, I don't want to say a challenge, but it's a new direction in our relationship, because for the last 15 years, we've always been social and drunk together.
Of course.
And, you know, every big event, there's alcohol. And he's like, I'm not worried, it won't change anything. I'm like, but it will. He's like, no, it won't. And it probably did so for me a little bit, because I don't want to do a bunch of the things that we used to do anymore.
Yep.
And I feel like that's a good thing, because we're doing things, or I'm wanting to do things that are more in line with the kids and family stuff, and, you know, really being present for those situations. But I call myself a reverse vampire these days. When it's dark, I am home.
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
We've just had daylight savings click over. I was in bed at 7:30 last night.
I love it.
It's like, yep, this is living.
I said to Nick, my husband, this used to be my favourite night of the year, because I remember about 5 years in a row being at 161. We get an extra hour. And now I'm like, oh my God, it's so easy to put the kids to bed. Yes. Oh, we're sitting on the couch having dinner. Oh, I should probably go to bed. It's like 7:15. So good.
I love it. Oh,
yeah,
that's so good.
But more time. This is like, time is such an interesting thing. When you choose to take alcohol out of the situation, you gain so much of it.
You do. And then you have the choice of what you want to do with it.
Yes.
And so going back to this idea of reaching out for support and community, how has that helped you along the journey?
So much, because you don't feel alone. And although Nick cut down drinking dramatically, and everyone, my parents, my friends, are all so supportive. They really are incredible. They're not in it with you. And so having a community that you could talk to, or even I used the Reframe app religiously. There's a daily reading on there that's like 5 or 10 minutes, and I sort of did some habit stacking. That I did that with my meditation either first thing in the morning or at lunchtime when I wasn't quite as structured. And then in itself has an anonymous community. So there's, you know, chats and threads that you can post stuff on and have chats with people, and so you don't feel as alone. And I was incredibly surprised at how isolating it can feel. Hence, hello.
Yeah, and it's even nice, isn't it, just being able to, I remember when you were getting ready to go to your first wedding.
Yes.
You know, and we had a conversation around that, because it is the unknown when you're stepping into doing these events, occasions where you've always used alcohol as a social lubricant to help not only give you confidence, but to really ease the nerves and calm the social anxiety. You know, we don't get sober to then check out of life and live really small lives. We want to continue doing and showing up and being in these environments, and not thinking to myself the whole time, oh, just don't drink, just don't drink, just don't drink. Because it's not about that. It's about wanting to be present, to be so present.
Yeah. And I didn't realise how much I had relied on alcohol in social situations until I'd reflected on that in the more recent months, really even. And big group events, I just skipped them all last year. Well, for the most part, I skipped most of them. Particularly, big group events are fine if I know the people. I'm fine. But if it's like a Mother's Day thing for the entire primary school, I'm like, it's just not happening. But I've actually bought a ticket to that, which is coming up in the next few weeks. So I'm doing that this year. And I've said to a couple of the mums who all know my situation, I'm like, I'm going to put my big boy pants on and I'm coming. They're like, cool, great.
Yeah, but that's huge though.
I have missed, or I do miss, or the edge that it takes off.
Yeah.
But I think that gets easier with time.
At what point along your journey did you realise that this was a lifelong decision?
I flipped and flopped a little bit, and I will never say never. But this is just perfect for me right now. I can't see myself going back. But there was there probably was. I remember getting to December and the silly season happening, and there was a couple, I was obviously 11 months in, and there was a couple of social events that happened, and I was like, fuck this. I'm missing out. What are you doing? There was, one, I have an annual girls' Christmas lunch, and that was amazing. We've been doing it since we finished school, but it's also very wild. And I went to the start of it, and I dropped a group of the awesome chicks at the ESPY, and they're like, come in. I'm like, I'm just not there. Yeah. I'm just not there. I appreciate it. Yeah. And they got out the car, and I was really sad. Yeah. I was full FOMO, like, what are you doing this for? Just go and drink with your friends.
Yeah. Oh, God.
But then the next day, I got up and did an 8 a.m. Pilates class.
Yeah.
And, had my girls in bed with me, and I felt good. And I was like, you know what? The highs aren't worth the lows. And that I was such a high chaser for so long, and that's something I've done a lot of work on with my therapist, is being content in every day and not chasing the highs, because the lows that come with them, I don't even want to say they're not worth it. But just instead of doing this all the time, everything's just a bit more elevated and calm.
Yeah.
And so for the temporary FOMO that you get, it's just not worth the potential damage that you're going to do to your mind and body.
Totally. I completely agree. When you mentioned the ESPY, it really took me back, because I spent the first couple of years of my sobriety really trying to fit my old life into my new world and feeling really uncomfortable in trying to do so. I remember there was one birthday that I had where we ended up at the Botanical, and I think I've shared on the podcast before, I left all the girls. We went and had a beautiful lunch at Destasio, and then we went to the Botanical, and I got home and I was living alone with Frank at the time, and I just sat there and I just cried and cried and cried. I felt so lonely, and I was like, what is this all worth? I was about 2 years sober at the time. But then it passed, and I knew that every time I got through one of those really hard moments and I got through the other side of it, it became easier. Yep. And then a funny story about being at the ESPY.
Nothing good happens at the ESPY.
It was like a year later, and we had our girls' Christmas upstairs. And I'd been drinking a mocktail, and this is like a cautionary tale for anyone who's on their sobriety journey. I was drinking a mocktail at lunch, and then we went up to the Ghost Bar, and I said to the wait staff, I'll just have another one of those. And they brought back this same purple-coloured looking drink, and I took one sip and felt the fire go down my throat. It was absinthe.
Oh, my God.
And I just straight away, and they talk about this in our literature, our 12-step literature, where you recoil like a hot flame. And that's exactly what happened to me at the time. I had no desire to continue drinking it, nor did I freak out. I just went, that's alcohol, and put it down. And well, actually, I asked the girls to try and tell me if it was alcohol, but they were all 3 sheets to the wind by this stage, so no one could confirm or deny.
It's like a rite of passage when you're at the ESPY.
Exactly. I just tasted the same as everything else. But I went up to the wait staff and it was confirmed it was alcohol. And anyway, I think I went to water at that stage, because it was also a lesson for me. I needed to be more
cautious,
vigilant and cautious around that kind of stuff. And then I also called my sponsor, and I called a family member who, just to get honest and accountable about that. And I was like, it's not a relapse, is it? And they were like, no, it's of course not. You put it back down and you didn't continue drinking it.
Yeah, so. Yeah. That is, I've had moments when I've been drinking non-alcoholic Chardonnay and they go to fill your glass up. I'm like, no. Give me a mug or something so you know that it's a different glass.
Totally.
But I am similar in that I drove home from the ESPY that afternoon and I just cried. Yeah. I cried. And I was like my past life really is that now. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to have fun or that I'm not going to go there another time. I just wasn't ready for it yet.
Yeah.
One thing I have not been able to do sober is dance.
Ooh, you'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. I still feel a bit awkward.
I've got two left feet at the best of times.
Weddings is where I go to dance, and especially if I'm at a wedding with, it's like a group of girls. I went to a friend of mine from my previous job. She got married a couple of years ago in Daylesford, and we had so much fun dancing on the dance floor that night. There was 5 of us girls, and we just let it rip. I didn't know anyone there though, so I think that was really helpful as well.
Yes.
So that's something, and even just dancing in your living room can, because it's that
I mean, I dance with
release.
the girls.
Well, there you go.
And
you're dancing.
We're 6 left feet, the 3 of us. So,
oh my goodness, that's so gorgeous. The other thing that I found around the friendship thing as well is that naturally the friendships my school girlfriends who are still very much a part of my life today, it's naturally evolved, and we do different things now, and we spend a lot more time doing healthy activities, going for walks, brunch, that kind of thing. But even more recently, our last girls' Christmas, they have changed so much over the years. We used to, go away and get absolutely belted for 3 days. The last Christmas that we had last year, just gone, I think only 2 of the girls were drinking out of 6.
Yep.
And they were having like 1 or 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's just, again, a natural evolution. I think it's age. I think it's just health, well-being.
The friendship thing is something that I found really interesting over the last 18-ish months. I'm so incredibly lucky that I've got such amazing women from a bunch of different groups around me. But I've also, some people have stepped back and that's okay. I totally respect that. But the friendships that I have now are so, so deep.
Yeah.
And it's such it's like I've clicked with 10 of my girlfriends in a way that I've never clicked before. And I'm obsessed with them.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy you've gotten to that point now.
Yeah, it's so nice. I've got a real A-team of chicks that are just my biggest supporters. And, but I'm also I don't ever want them to feel like they can't drink around me. I don't want to drink. It's not an issue from that sense. It's a chosen thing. And I can still have a good time. But some of the friends that have sort of stepped back a little bit or said, oh, that's a bit boring. What are you doing that for? Or not invited me to something because I don't drink. Mm-hmm. You care what's in my cup.
Yeah. Well, often it's the mirror.
Yeah, it's just I've found that a little bit confronting, and I'm just like, just roll with it. It's not your problem to deal with.
Exactly right. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 1 or 2 of them reached out later down the track being like, how did you do it?
Yeah, and I've had quite a few people do that now, and people saying you're an inspiration. I'm like, sorry?
You are a walking billboard for sobriety, Kate. I need to do it.
I don't even say that I'm sober. I just say that I don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like what I've done is that big of a deal. It wasn't that hard. I mean, it was hard. But when I look back and go, I didn't do a million things. I did one thing and a million things changed.
Yeah, but that one thing, don't play that down. That one thing is the fabric of our life.
Yeah.
It is what some people spend years, decades trying to stop doing, just that one thing.
Yeah. And I don't want to put that down by any means. I feel like I'm really lucky in that I could step away from it reasonably easily.
But you put in so much work.
But I put in a lot of work.
You put in so much work, babe. You reached out, you got support, you joined a 12-week program, you did heaps of Quit Lit podcasts, you got yourself to the gym when you didn't want to work out. You have completely, there is not a single area of your life that looks the same as it did 18 months ago.
No.
And it's all for the better.
Only once I hit the 12-month mark that I was actually like, hey, that's a really fucking good job.
Yeah.
Be proud of you.
Yeah.
And not cover it up.
Or minimise it.
Mm-hmm. You did good.
You did fucking amazing. And you're still doing amazing, which is so inspiring.
Yeah. And just I cannot believe how much my life has changed in just nearly 18 months. It's, insane.
And Kate, you've described this journey as a bit of a rebirth. What has been the thing that has surprised you the most, or what has changed the most for you mentally, spiritually, physically?
I think what I found most interesting is that what I like has changed. Even what I wear has changed. And I don't know if that's in line with losing weight and just being more comfortable, but I've found that my fashion is more in line with what I used to like when I was 14. And not to say that I'm dressing like a teenager.
No.
But I had changed the way that I looked over time because I thought that that's what I was meant to do. And I've stopped doing what I think other people want me to do. And so just doing what I think is the right thing to do or what I want it to do has been the biggest change for me. And just really creating the boundaries that I need to make sure that those changes can happen.
It sounds like you've almost come home to self on this journey and you've actually figured out who Kate is.
Totally.
And now you're respecting that and honouring that.
And because the music that I listen, like I listen to music all the time now. I didn't used to do that. Like I did that when I was early teens and I haven't done that for so long, and I've always got music. It's these little things that I'm like, oh, I'm back to who I was, like, and who I'm meant to be, and like just finding yourself again, which sounds a little bit corny, but it's
beautiful.
Yeah, it's just I'm still me. I'm still the same friend. I've still got the same dirty sense of humor, but I'm just a little bit of a more evolved person than I was. Or I don't know, I just feel like I've got deeper parts to me now.
Without a doubt. You've let go of the armor and you're actually doing this life's work of figuring out, who am I? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? And what's the impact I want to leave?
Yeah. And I think the one thing that keeps me like, yeah, you're not going to probably drink ever again, or at least until your kids are 18, is how different of a parent I am. And what that looks like on a day-to-day basis, how present I am, how much I want to be around or involved with my kids, as opposed to it feeling like a chore or something that, you know, one of my favourite times of the day is being in the car with my kids. Now, we have these really big conversations, and I don't know what it is about being in the car. I think it's just because it's a bit of a relaxed environment. They're sitting in the back, and every day when I pick them up, they get the same 2 questions. What are the 2 things that went well for you today? And it all just unravels from that. And it's not, oh, fuck, I got to go get the kids now. Like, yes, I got to go get my kids now.
Yeah.
It's these little things that have changed that just makes everything else so much easier.
It's just that complete shift in mindset, isn't it? And I do think that when your body is not focused on having to process toxins, deal with inflammation, overcome fatigue, you can just be present in the moment and be present for the magical moments that life has to offer, which we so often miss when we're tired, when we're sick, when we're run down, all things that are greatly accelerated with drinking alcohol.
It is those little moments, and I thought it was such a faff when I first started, when you hear about this stuff. And until you experience it, you probably don't get it. But the little things, like Frankie, my youngest, she is often sneaks her way into our bed, and I'll wake up and she's in the middle. And she will without doubt wake me with a little tickle on the face every morning. And I used to get so angry about it because I am a cranky person in the morning, and I was usually a little bit dusty or, you know, wanting some extra sleep. And now it is just one of my favourite parts of the day that we get to share this 30 seconds together when she opens her eyes and she's just got this big beaming smile, and I don't want to be anywhere else but next to her and with her and right there.
It was so beautiful.
It's really cute. She's so funny.
Oh, my God. And just like, imagine, you know, I'm sitting here thinking right now, imagine if you hadn't made that decision.
Yeah.
And, you know, this 18 months would have gone by and it would have been the exact same as the 18 months before, and all of these beautiful moments that you're now absorbing and really feeling and breathing into, you know, you would have missed all of them.
Yeah. I feel like everything happens for a reason, and I really believe that what will be, and it will all work out the way that it's meant to. But I'm so grateful that I just randomly thought that maybe I'd do this for 12 months and it might help my body without expecting anything else from it, and just being like blown away what you can get out the other side.
What would you say to someone who's in a similar position to you were 18 months ago, contemplating, you know, giving up booze for a year?
I don't want to do the first 3 months again, right? So I've got a few friends that have been like, I'm going to do 3 months off the booze. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's the shittest part.
Yeah.
So you do that, you start drinking, then you do the 3 months again. Like
no,
all of this magic comes out after day 100, which is something that I'd learned from that Reframe app. And it was so true. Like every feeling, emotion, sensation that I had was so in line with what that app said was going to happen. And I don't know whether that's kind of partly because I'm expecting it to happen, or maybe that's just actually how it works. But getting to day 100 and then just something changes and it all gets good. So it's amazing that you want to do it, but I don't do 3 months.
Do we? Yeah.
Even 6, like just because I found that start, and I don't know if it's the same for but I found that start so awful.
Oh, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I always say, get through at one of each season.
Yes.
Show yourself, because often the thing will be, oh, but I could never do a birthday, or I could never do Christmas, or I could never do
a big thing coming up in that month.
Correct. So you just prove to yourself that you can do life in
Yeah.
all of its glory and messiness and everything that comes with a full season or year. And then you show yourself, it's like you get to that milestone. I so often work with clients who get to that milestone and then go, my life is so good now. Why the hell would I go back?
Yeah.
But don't shortchange or rip yourself off from that experience.
Yes. I didn't think, I just committed to 12 months. When I started this was not a lifelong journey. I was like, I'm just testing this out to see what it's like. And I'm so grateful that I did, because I have this whole new world and perspective, and I never would have said yes to something like this.
No way.
12 months ago. No way. But now I've gotten to the point where I am a bit more comfortable. I still feel like my confidence is pretty shattered. So
why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think the mental health side of it still, although it's been some years, it still feels really fresh, because up until I was 30, I'd never had any mental health issues, no depression, anxiety, anything like that. And so it's not something that I learnt how to deal with, and tackling some of that stuff later in life, it's really eye-opening. And I think that combined with then removing of the confidence juice, I'm just a bit of a work in progress still.
Of course.
But I forever will be. And I think we all should be.
Yeah. God willing.
God willing.
We continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah.
It's certainly the journey that I want to be on. And I think for me in that area, because I'm the same, I haven't had any really severe bouts of depression for quite a long time. I'm not on any medication anymore, but I do still have waves of anxiety. I'm actually working through one right now that's been really heavy the last couple of days with something that I'm going through. And, I always go back to my faith now, and I just trust, like I have such a belief that everything's going to be okay and that I'm looked after, and that I have, for me, I call it God, but maybe for others it's universe, spirit, whatever it is, there's something out there that I can connect to. Yeah. And I'm just like, in that moment, I know it's going to be okay. And I know that, there'll be hard times ahead, whatever they look like, because that's the nature of life. But I know that I'm going to be okay. And that is what gives me the confidence today.
Yeah. And I think, so in 2024, about June or halfway through, I'd been on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication for maybe, I want to say 8-ish years. I tapered off. And it took me 4 months to become completely off antidepressants, which was really hard in itself. But I was like, let's rip this Band-Aid off. Let's do a factory reset on your body. And I got rid of everything, every pharmaceutical, everything, just slowly with my GP, with my psychologist. I was in a really good headspace. I was obviously doing the work, learning with all the new tools that I had. It didn't mean it was easy. There was still, like, when you reduce from, a level 4, let's say, of your antidepressants to 3 to 2 to 1, 1 to 0 is like a smack in the face with a wet fish. But I was like, don't go back. You've got this. It was led by a GP. There were going to be dark days, and there were, but I did it. And it was hard, but I got through that. And to be completely off any kind of pharmaceutical, pain, anti-inflammatory, antidepressants, anxiety, like that was a massive goal last year on top of the booze.
Yeah, and all because you made that decision to give up that one thing, which gave
it's just that one thing.
Literally, there's no way you would have been able to do that if you'd still been self-medicating or even just drinking irregularly.
Yeah.
Wow, Kate, that is just incredible. Your story is so amazing. And I know that we were chatting before we recorded that you were worried that you didn't have a story to tell, and it blows my mind because sitting here listening to your story today, like I just know that this is going to help so many people. So I want to thank you for that.
I hope so. Thank you. It is, when you live stuff for so long, it's just yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I feel like I'm going to be a really boring guest for you. Are you sure you want me on? I don't actually have that much to say.
Yeah, that's the same as you don't think that giving up booze is all that big a deal. Minimizing.
Yeah, I do that with most things.
Oh, yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's okay. Work in progress.
Work in progress.
That's right.
Yeah. But I love that as well. And I've embraced the fact that I am always going to be a work in progress. And that's good. I need to learn, and I'm learning how to moderate and be content. And just sitting, being content, that's a big thing. Huge. It's huge. But just enjoying it as I go. It is a big thing. It's all a big thing.
Yes, girl. Own that. I love it. Kate, I've got one final question that I'd love to ask you. What are your 3 non-negotiables that allow you to live your life today happy, authentic and free?
So my first one, this one took me a long time to get my head around, and it's health. Whether that's mental or physical, my health is my priority. And particularly being a mum, that's really hard to put yourself first all the time. But I've seen what happens on the other side if I don't, and it just falls apart. I can't help my kids if I'm not well. So that's a really hard one as a mum to get your head around, and I'm so lucky that my husband is so incredibly supportive of me and making sure that I'm in my best possible space, and supportive of me to, like, he'll stay around at home and not go to work so I can go to the gym in the morning, or he knows that I got to get to some appointments. He's amazing, and I probably don't give him enough credit.
Shout out, Nick.
Shout out, Nick. Love you. And the other thing with health is no one else is going to do it for you. That is something massive that I've learned, because it took me 2 years to get the diagnosis for my hips.
Wow.
2 years. And by the time they found them, there was nothing left. There was stage 3 degeneration, bone spurring, no hip sockets. Like, I was nearly in a wheelchair. But everyone's like, you don't need an MRI, because you're too young.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, pregnancy must really suck. So that is my big one. Sleep, non-negotiable.
Oh yeah.
I am a cranky beast if I don't get my sleep, and I struggle to get to sleep. And again, shout out Nick, thank you for sleeping on the couch until I fall asleep, because I struggle to get to sleep. So he stays on the couch until I'm asleep. So then he comes to bed. Oh.
And Frankie's asleep, apparently.
Frankie's asleep. And my third one is boundaries. I've always said yes to most things, everything. And I'm trying to say yes more to things that make me feel uncomfortable, like this, but also setting boundaries about not doing things that I think people think I should be doing, just doing what's right for me and my kids and my family. Yeah.
So fully letting go of that people-pleasing tendency.
That is a tough one.
Yeah.
And expectations, and just, you know what, if I don't feel like it's going to serve me and my family and it's not going to be good for me in the long run, I'm going to tap out.
And I think that you really aren't able to cultivate that level of self-respect until you build your self-worth. And that, again, comes as a result of all of these small micro actions that you've taken in putting yourself first.
And I'm better at that, doing that. And my mum, she's so incredible and supportive, but I'm probably set the biggest boundaries with her because I'm probably the most comfortable with her. So I'm probably a bit harsher than I should be with her, because she's my number one supporter and I feel so comfortable saying yes or no. Whereas people that I'm a bit more distanced from, I feel like, oh, yep, I'll do that. Sure.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, fuck, why did I say that? Like,
totally.
Set your boundaries, or just take a minute.
Yeah. Can I get back to you?
Yes.
Phenomenal sentence.
Just
let me think about that.
Yep. No, thank you.
Yeah. No is a full sentence.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, so uncomfortable.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, beautiful. So you're leaving us with health is your number one priority, sleep is number 2, and then
boundaries.
Practicing boundaries at number 3. Phenomenal. I love those. Thank you so much for sharing those. And Kate, from the bottom of my heart, we say here on the show, when we recover loudly, no one needs suffer in silence. And I cannot thank you enough for being here and sharing your story today.
Thank you so much for having me.
A big thank you for tuning in today. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by hitting the follow button and leaving a rating and review. Each rating and review helps this podcast become more discoverable so more people can hear these stories of strength and hope. Remember to reach out to those you care about, and I'll be back next week. Until then.